civilization of mankind is stated in history. Development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography. Now, how this scientific approach, or we can say that the European countries are the most developed countries since ancient time. Compared to the other countries, the European countries were considered to be more developed. They were the developed countries. They were more into this scientific research or scientific things, and they were more into development. It might be in the terms of science and technology or anything, but there was more development in the Western countries. Prior to the 18th century, all European universities were interested only in the philosophical discourses revolving around divine phenomena. Okay, before the 18th century, they used to be all divine phenomena, like uh, related to the natural things, like naturally what happens, how it happens, that it was related to. They were like just stating into godly things, or something, very great, very divine. They used to state that. However, gradually this scenario began to change. In 1737 CE, the Göttingen University was founded in Germany. This university for the first time had an independent department of history. Later, other German universities also became centers of historical studies. For example, we can say that this can be best explained by what all earlier stories which came to us as an part of the ancient history were like the stories of Ramayana, the Mahabharata. So don't you think these were all like the godly stories, or the stories of gods, or some divine things, some big things, like they were not humans, they were greater than the humans, like things. So it was more related to that. But after the in 1737, there was one Göttingen University which was founded in Germany, and then there was a separate department, independent department for history. And thereafter there were many universities, and that time for the thereafter there was special focus given, or there was special attention given to the history subject. And then there were many different aspects of history which came into being. Till the 18th century CE, the philosophical discussions focused more and more on the objectivity in history and historiography. Till the 18th century, it was more about the people stating whatever they found as history, or whatever they feel as history, in an authentic way, after checking that all those information, if they are correct, and then what they feel, what they personally feel is history, or history, that narrative that they used to express, and that was called as historiography. Like in the coming part of the chapter, we will see that there were so many historians, and these historians, what they feel history is according to them, that they have stated, or what history includes in it, or what is the way we should look at history at. All these questions are answered by different scholars, and according to them, that was history. This was up till the 18th century. Now about the notable scholars, we are going to see what these scholars had said about history and historiography. René Descartes, he belonged to the 15th and the 16th century. 1596 to 1650. René Descartes was the foremost among the scholars who insisted on verifying the reliability of the historical document by critically examining them. Whatever historical documents were there, those were critically, systematically examined, verified, thoroughly verified. Among the rules given by him in his book Discourse on the Method. The following supposed the following is supposed to have a great impact on the scientific method of research. Never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubt are excluded. He was the one of the leading scholars of that era. That is the 15th and the 16th century. He was one of the leading historian, and his concept, he believed focused, or he insisted more that nothing, never to accept anything for true. We should not accept anything to be true till all the grounds of doubts are excluded, till there is no chance that we feel that this particular thing might not be true. There should be no thought of such type in our mind when we say, when we state something. There should be no ifs and buts, and we should be very, very, very sure about that thing when we state that thing. So this is what Rene Descartes had to say. The next scholar is Voltaire. He is from 16th century and 17th century. Earlier we have seen Rene Descartes, he was 15th and 16th century. So he was at the end of the 16th century, that is 1694 to 1778. Voltaire's original name was Francisco Marie Arouet. He was French. He opined that along with objective truth and chronology of history, historical events, considering social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture, etc., was also equally important in historiography. He says, according to him, we should not only focus on the history or about the people, only about the chronology. Chronology is the sequence or the order, not only on the order that, likewise, like he was the king, after him his son was the king, after his son was the king. So this is the chronology. So we should not only focus on the chronology of or the truth objectives, only on the objectives, but we should also consider all the other grounds or all the other things which are related to the people or to the time, like the social traditions, the trade, the economy of the country, then what was the agriculture, how was the agriculture that time, etc. All these things should also be considered. He says that all these things are also very important in historiography. It gave rise to the thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important for history writing. He says that all the other grounds are also very important to be considered if we are writing history about a particular person or particular human life or particular uh, object. If we have to have an example of this, what he means to say is a person may be uh, behaving in a particular way because of the other social or other background which has a lot of impact on that person at that particular time. So that those things are also to be considered before considering how a person is reacting. Sometimes, for example, we are not well, we are not feeling well, we have uh, headache, for example, we can say we have a lot of headache, and we have not revealed this to our parents or our mama or our father, and what and because of that you're not feeling well, so you're just lying down that day, you're not doing your studies, and uh, you're behaving slightly differently, very lazy and so. But what, because you have not communicated this to your parents, what they feel that you are just passing your time on doing all unnecessary thing, just lousing it out, lazying out, and you should better focus on your studies. So they keep on shouting out at you. But is this you normally always? No. You're different. You always do your studies on time, but then that day you're not feeling well, so you're doing it. So if you communicate it to your parents, they react differently. They may find out ways to make you more comfortable. So the situation or the state of mind or the other things. Sometimes you may not be able to study because there's a lot of noise, so that might be the factor because of which you are not able to concentrate. So it is very important that these other factors, how they uh, these other factors to be considered are also very important, because of these factors only there can be changes in your reactions, in your behavior. So Voltaire was of the opinion that all these factors which can affect a human being, which can affect the behavior or the output of a person, should also be considered. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography. This was a very new concept, this was a modern concept, that all these other factors should also be considered while writing the history of the human life. And therefore, Voltaire, he was the person who, he was the scholar who introduced this concept. So, Voltaire is also called as the founder of modern historiography. George William Frederick Hegel, he belonged to the 17th and 18th century, 1770 to 1831. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that the historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. To him, the timeline of historical events was indicative of progress. He says um, that the historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. They should be logically presented, and timeline, he says, is the indication of progress. Like with the passing of time, we grow. There was development in every few decades, you can say, or every few years there was development. So he says that this timeline is a indication of progress. So that is very important. Timeline should be given a lot of importance. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidences would come forth. He also felt that as new evidences, as new proofs or new things come into being. See, like when we are placing things in order, maybe in ascending or descending order, what happens that after 10-15 documents or after 10-15 pages, you come up with a page which belongs to in between only somewhere. So similarly, he says, if we focus on the timeline and if we try to arrange the things in a chronological order, what happens that if something new comes into existence which belongs to the era in between only, then again all the sequence goes for a toss. So he says that this sequence, whatever sequence we sort into, that is bound to change because the new evidences will keep on coming and there will be changes in the existing sequence. So he says that there are over the time the evidences would come up and they would change the sequence. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differ from scientific methods. Um, when Hegel stated this, there were so many scholars who believed him that although history is not presented or history is not based on scientific methods, but still uh, history is equally important, or the history presentation is also equally important just as the scientific ways. The collection of lectures and the collection of lectures and articles is published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences. His book Reason in History is well known. These are the books published by Hegel and are very, very well known. Leopold von Ranke. He belonged to the 17th and the 18th century. Historiography of the 19th century was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold von Ranke of Berlin University. He spoke about the critical method of historical research. He put emphasis on the utmost importance of phenomena gathered through original documents. He also stated that all types of documents associated with the historical events need to be examined with greatest care. He believed that with this method it was possible to reach the historical truth. He criticized imaginative narration of history. Collection of his articles is published in two books entitled The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. Okay, he says that each and every document that we come across related to a particular thing should be given importance, equal importance. Like if we come across uh, an information, we may think that it is not important and we may neglect it, but we should never do that, or rather a historian should never do that. Each and every document, each and everything related to a particular research should be given equal importance, and he says that's the real way to reach to the truth of a particular, of the history of a particular thing. So each and every evidence or each and everything that is related to a particular thing should be given equal importance. He also says that imaginative writing, or thinking that this might have happened, this may happen, or this would have been happened, should not be given any space in history. He says that imaginative thinking should not be given any place in history that is not history. Only it should be based on the evidences, and all the evidences should be given equal importance. That is what he states. Imaginative is not true which you think might be true, or which you imagine is called as an imaginary uh, imaginary imaginary thing. So imaginary writings is not allowed in history at all, according to Leopold von Ranke. Karl Marx. He was a very well known historian, and he has brought a great change in history as well. He belonged to the 18th century, 1818 to 1883. In the later half of the 19th century, a school of thought arose, keeping in view the new thesis formulated by Karl Marx. According to Marx, history was not about abstract ideas. Abstract is unrealistic ideas. It is not about the unrealistic ideas. It was about living people. It was not about unrealistic things also. It was only about the living people, and human relations are based on the fundamental needs of the people and the ownership as well as nature of prevalent means of production to meet those needs. What are the basic needs of the human being? Food, clothing, and shelter. We all know this very well. But the basic needs. Now we all need food to eat, we all need air to breathe, we all need water, we all need clothing, we all need shelter. But of these basic necessities, do you think that each and every human being is able to afford that, or is in a position that he has, yes, he has all his basic necessities? There are few people who in such certain circumstances may not be able to have these all basic necessities. So he says that history revolves around the basic necessities of people and the availability of these basic necessities. The ability to reach up to these basic necessities differs. Fundamental needs of the people and the ownership as well as nature of the prevalent means of production to meet those needs. He says that the people who produce this, or the people who produce this to make our necessities, or make our necessities available to us, are there are people who have needs, and then there are people who have the capacity, or to have who do give us or provide us with these necessities. The accessibility of these means to different strata of the society may not be equal. So different sections of the society may not have the equal access, the equal reach to these needs, or to this production. This inequality causes a division in the society into classes. Because of this inequality, there are division in the classes, a division in the society into classes, leading to class struggle, and therefore there is a class struggle. Now, to explain this in a simple way, we have classes in the society: middle class, higher class, right? So these classes do not have equal accessibility to the means of this production. Like, whatever my needs are, I may not be able to fulfill them fully, but then there are few people, they have more than what they need. They have still more than what they need. And then there are few people who do not have at all what their basic necessities are, what their wants are. So they do not have even half of that. So there are different classes. He says because of this wants, and because of this availability of the produce, so there are different classes, and because of this there is class struggle and division amongst the society. According to Marx, human history is the history of class struggle, as the class that owns the means of production economically exploits the rest of the classes. The people who own the means of production, we can say the industrialist, these people exploit, or um, they try to uh, get whatever they want, maybe in a correct way or in the wrong way, from the people who are not as rich as them, or they do not have as good, they cannot as good afford their things. So he says when there is classes, the superior class always exploits the inferior class, so called, in the economically. For example, in the industries, there are so many times we see that the workers are not paid wages properly. In the olden times, you can also remember that there were money lenders who used to lend money to the people, to the farmers, and then after years and even generations also, they used to say that your loan is not at all paid off. You still have, this is only what the interest you have been paying, but your loan, the main basic amount, the principal amount, is still yet to be paid. So this was the exploitation by the money lender of the farmers, because they were poor, they were not able to fight with the money lender, they were not aware of, they were not so much knowledgeable. So that is what he is trying to focus on, Karl Marx. He says because there are classes, division of society into classes, then there is struggle amongst the classes, and because of that there is the economically strong classes, the economically those who are economically strong, they exploit the classes, they exploit the people who are not economically that strong. Das Kapital, a treatise written by him, is the most referred book in the all over the world. Annales School. At the onset of the 20th century, a new school of historiography arose in France, which is known as Annales School. Annales School gave a new direction in history writing. It is recognized now that that history is not only about the political events, kings, great leaders, and accordingly politics, diplomacy, and wars, but also about the climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social division, and their collective psychology, etc. In the historical times, the Annales school was started by French historians. We have seen that the history in the ancient time, and this is the historiography related to the 20th century. In the 20th century, a school called Annales school came into existence, and according to the Annales school, the historians believe that historiography or history is not only about wars, kings, then political science is not only about political events or about the wars amongst the kings, then the it is not only about this, but it also relates to the social people, climate, local people, agriculture, trade. All these concepts are also included into history according to the Annals school, which was started in the 20th century. So this is the most latest in historiography. We have studied historiography since the ancient times to the 20th century, and now we are into the this is the most latest thing about it. Okay, Michael Foucault. Michael Foucault was from the 19th century, 1926 to 1984. Michael Foucault brought forth a new concept in historiography. He, in his book Archaeology of Knowledge, argued that the prevailing practice of arranging historical events in a chronological order is not right. We have seen that a little bit earlier also, that there might be evidences which may relate in between itself, so the chronology is bound to change. We have seen this earlier also. So he also stated that arranging the things in chronological order is not is not correct. He drew attention to the fact that the archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth, that but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. He says the archaeology does not uh, relate when they are findings. They are not necessary that all the things related to a particular time or a particular thing or a particular place should be found there itself. Sometimes the relevant things to that particular place or to that particular event can be found few years later in a very different part of the world. So he says that chronologically arranging them, or the archaeological findings do not, it's not like you just get it all at a place in one at a time itself. So there can be new additions to a particular thing in different places and at different times also. So it is not correct to use the chronology of the order. He drew attention to the fact that archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth, but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. They show only the transitions, not necessary that everything should be founded at a same time. Explaining the transition in history is more important. He called this method the archaeology of knowledge. Foucault subjected the so far unacknowledged areas by history, such as philosophical disorders, science of medicine, prison administration, etc., to historical analysis. Now there was some more addition to the topic or to the subject of history. He says that not only the events or something, not only the events or the particular things are related to history, but also the relevant things to it are also very important, like the psychology of that particular time, or the prison administration, or the historical analysis. All these things are also very important and should be considered at the time of writing history. Thus, the scope of historiography kept continuously expanding. Writing of histories, writing of histories of various subjects like like literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing and painting, music, drama, films and television, etc. came into practice. So now the history was more, you can say, more diversified, and it was like not only about the people or about the place or about the event, but it also started undertaking the small sections like music, dance, history of music, where it originated, then how it kept on changes, then how there were different schools, how were different thought processes, and how there were different styles of singing, and that they came into practice. So the transition of films, the transition of televisions, the transition of cinema, how it was like earlier only there was no voice to it. Gradually there was white, but then gradually there was voice, but then there was black and white movies. Then slowly with that, then there were color. Now you have 3D, 4D movies. You have 70 songs. So these how this transition came into being. So he says not only the chronology is not important, rather the transition is more important. He says that the transition should be more focused on to. Till now we have seen that there were so many historians, and they have given their views about historiography, about history, and what all should be included in history. And gradually we have seen that the scope of history, the perspective of history has went on increasing. Earlier it was related to the divine and human things. Later on expanding, it has taken now we can see there are so many things which are included in history. Now till now we have seen all the historians stating this, but there was no female historian we have come across. Now this is the change, or this is the one more development in history, that is called as the feminist historiography. Now feminist historiography means the restructuring of the history from the perspective of a woman. Now the challenges faced by the woman, or the hardships faced by the woman, are different than those faced by the men, because now the way we have equality to men and women both, we do have now, but earlier there was no equality. The women were very ill treated. They were not allowed to come out of the house or come in front of others. They were not allowed education. So there was the history related to, or the exposure related to the men and the women were totally different. So this time it was the history related to the women is quite different, or with the perspective of women is very different. The writings of Simone de Beauvoir helped in establishing the fundamentals of feminism. What is feminism? The fundamentals of feminism were very clear with the writings of Simone de Beauvoir. She was French. The feminist historiography emphasized not only on the inclusion of women in history, but also on the rethinking of the male dominant perspective of history. It drove historical research to focus in depth on various aspects of women's life, such as their employment, their role in trade union, institutions working for their cause, their family life, etc. In the historical writings after 1990, women were portrayed as an independent social class. Earlier, we have seen that there was nothing in specific for the women, but after after the writings of Simone de Beauvoir, she gave importance to the feminist historiography, and she said it is not only about including the women in history, but also during while writing or while considering the history, the aspects of females is also very important, because the circumstances in which the women are is quite different, so it has to have a very different aspect to it. That was our history. First chapter, historiography, development in the West. We have seen that how the different historians had contributed, and everyone had a different view about historiography. Then they also changed history related to earlier, how it went on changing and expanding, and now in the 21st century, rather up to the 20th century, we have seen that there was the scope of history has increased widely. There is, you may find that some topics of geography are also included in history, like climate change, region, these are all geographical factors affecting the life of human in a particular area or a particular place. So these are the transitions that we have seen in history, historiography of the West. This was all about the European countries, the Western countries, and how transitions has taken place there, and how the different historians had different opinion about history writing. That is all what we have seen today. I think you must have heard everything. You must have tried to understand. If you have any questions, any queries, if you want to ask something, you can definitely uh, WhatsApp me on my personal number. Also, I'll be sending you homework or an assignment within an hour or so. Thank you, children.